The vehicle's not safe. We need to fail down here so we don't fail up there.
This isn't just another trip, Neil. You're not just going to work.
Do you think you're coming back?
Cinéfilos, qué gusto estar con estas dos personas que están detrás de un proyecto increíble que pudimos ver este año. De verdad es un gusto estar con el director y el guionista de The First Man, El primer hombre en la luna, Damien and Josh. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I'm really impressed that this movie takes place in such a huge place that it's the space, that it's so immense. But what you really want to reflect, or what you actually reflected for me, it's like the smallest or more intense thing in the world, that is the human soul. So I would like to know what guided you to approach to this film in the most emotional way.
I think in some ways that was part of what attracted us to the story, was the extremes built within it. You have the biggest, most cosmic achievement, epic achievement, arguably in human history. And then at the same time, that's juxtaposed with this seemingly almost ordinary life that this family led, that the Armstrongs as a family led. And just looking at those two things side by side, the smallest of the small and the biggest of the big, and how they could inform each other, I think that really inspired us. And I would say, if one had to take precedence over the other, it was actually the small stuff that really inspired us even more, because obviously, the lunar landing is a very well-known event, and we know that they land, and we know that they, make it back safely. But what we don't know is what actually Neil might have been feeling at that time, what those feelings might have informed, how they might have affected his work and his journey towards the moon, and how that physical journey might have been paralleled by an emotional journey that you really do discover by looking at the home life and him and Janet and what was happening behind closed doors at that time in their lives, and the tremendous sacrifice and loss that they were going through. So it became this human story for us about grief, about coping, about trying to move on with your wounds, even more so than a story about landing on the moon.
Here we go.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
And I told you yesterday at the red carpet, but I think that I've seen this movie twice now. So the next time that I go to the movie, I'll take a anxiety pill, because oh my god, and yesterday I had the chance to watch it from the first row, so I was what's happening here, all the motion and everything.
You were in space, yeah.
Yeah, but exactly, yeah, it was like a ride in a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But what really catch my attention is that the movie is not only claustrophobic, like in the cinematography, but also using the close-ups. But it's very interesting that you go from NASA to their home. These are the only two spaces that we really visit in the movie. As you were saying, this is a journey that goes from space to the house. But how was the process in the screenplay to make the emotions so contained with the actors, but also reflect what they were thinking only with their eyes sometimes?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, and that challenge, there were two giant challenges with this screenplay and with this movie, I think. One was Neil, and the other was tackling all the technical, the space stuff, getting that right. But with Neil, Neil was this very private, emotionally tightly packaged man. So, he's not someone who's going to scream and shout when something goes wrong, or jump up and down and celebrate when something goes right. He's much more contained than that. And so, on the one hand, I always knew I was writing for Ryan, right? And so that's a great relief, because he works so well in the small. But that said, it's a real challenge to be able to, convey what's going on in the inner life of someone who doesn't speak a whole lot. And so with Neil, it was really about trying to understand him and pick spots, right? And figure out, okay, he loves talking about technical stuff, so can we see him get excited about that? And can we show that is him starting to come back to life after the loss of his daughter, when he sits with Janet and talks to her about what something he learned, studying, studying the Gemini earlier. Can we have this moment of, wry humor from him when he's with the guys? Can we have, the moment where we learn about musical theater, and he doesn't say much, but he smiles, and you get a sense of, you know, that sparkle that he did have. You know, but really the other place you go to is the wives, right? You go to Janet and Pat, you go to Claire and Olivia to carry a lot of the weight of, you know, what's actually going on emotionally in these families. And fortunately we had two great actresses, and not to mention, you know, we had a ton of help from Mark and Rick Armstrong and from Janet, and from June, Neil's sister, that really helped us, you know, get at who those people were. Bonnie Bear, Pat White's daughter, Ed White's daughter. You know, these people were able to tell us things about, you know, Janet and Pat. So we were able to really try to go deep on those portraits to try to give us a slightly rounder, more colorful impression of what's going on at home than we might have gotten just from the men.
Do you read? Neil.
One last question. There's this really interesting scene, like with the press conference, where the journalists ask like the most silly questions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But what would you ask Neil Armstrong if you had the chance to ask like one question to him?
By the way, all those questions
Were real.
they're real. They're all real questions. They're from different press conferences. They're not all from that press conference, but
Yes.
they are all. And in fact, I would think all of the press questions in the film are real verbatim questions.
They felt real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yes, I've heard those questions in press conferences.
Yeah. What would you ask, Neil?
Oh, you just throw that to me.
Well, no, I have an answer, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I would ask him what he thought of the movie,
Okay.
what we got right and what we got wrong.
All right.
I would ask him about the X-15. I would ask him about the X-15 because I'm told he loved talking about it, and some of my more favorite research experiences. You know, in addition to hanging out with the family and learning about what that dynamic was talking to Joe Engle, who's the last living X-15 pilot, where he literally walked me through those flights, and just getting a sense of what that was like. So I would ask him about the X-15, and I would probably ask him if he would take me up flying.
All right.
Because I'd want to.
I think he would say
go.
no, like, I don't know, he was so contained. But
Well, he liked to.
Kind of
He had
question, though.
gliders, and he liked to fly his gliders, and he would take his boys up. So I would ask
Oh,
if I could
okay.
go do that with him.
great.
So
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
this interview.
Nice talk.